This episode is proudly sponsored by Student Growth Partners, your trusted partner in helping universities grow their enrollments. If you enjoy this podcast, please like, subscribe, and share it with friends who might find it valuable. Your support helps us reach more listeners and continue bringing you expert insights from the world of higher education. All right, welcome to this newest episode of the Enrollment Clinic. My guest today is Blendi Salaj. Blendi was the Director of Communication for Marin Barleti University in Tirana, Albania. He is also a media personality, running several shows, producer, both on radio and TV, and most importantly, an opinion leader with specifically with Gen Z. Welcome, Blendi.
Thank you for having me. That's quite an introduction. I'll hope to live up to that. You left out the part that we're all friends as well.
That's true.
And I should say that I really appreciate your work and I follow you intensely. And I'm really honored to be on this podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Blendi, let's go back and talk a little bit about your experience as Director of Marketing Communications for Marin Barleti University. For the audience that doesn't know, Marin Barleti is a very prestigious school in Tirana, Albania. So tell me a little bit about some of the challenges that you found in your position there.
Yeah, well, I worked there for about 3.5 to 4 years, and I started in 2008. And at that time, private universities in Albania, by law, were only about 3 or 4 years old. So everybody that was on the market as a private university was new in a way. And the first challenge that we had as a team of marketing this university, and that was closely related to enrollment as well. So you market well, you get more students. If you don't, then you don't. Was the name of the university, which is very prestigious. And this is an old historian. He's the guy who wrote the history of Skanderbeg, and practically everything we know about Skanderbeg, the national hero of Albania, we know through his work, and all the legends they came after. But the basis is his book. So he was a researcher. He was a Catholic priest. And he was a historical figure. He'd been dead for, I don't know, about 400 years at the time. So the challenge that we found was that students wanted to go to universities that had more of a cool feeling to them. They had cooler names like the European University, and there was the Continental University, and names like that. Whereas Marin Barleti, some people couldn't even pronounce it right, so they used to make a little mistake when they pronounced the name, and it looked like a school that it had a reputation for being a rigorous school. But to them, it seemed like a little hard as well to get through it, and they wanted to get an easier feel, something that would be easier for them, something that was more of the time. So with the team that we had there, what we did, one of the first things that we did was we reshaped the logo. It had this Gothic, letters to it, and the guys who had founded it thought that was right, but it looked too heavy. And the year of the establishment was 2005. So you have these Gothic letters, and then 2005, which is a recent time. So they didn't match together very well. So we used the lighter shade of burgundy as well. So we try to renew, refresh a little bit the logo of the university itself. And on the other part, a lot of our communication happened through. We had like excellent. They still do at Marin Barleti. Some excellent professors, some teachers, people who would write articles in the newspapers, and we try to get these people out into TV shows a lot. So if they were TV shows that had a younger audience, then there were social topics and debates. We wanted to bring these people, myself included. That's how I started in media. Practically just going there and being on panels on TV. Twofold. That was to give an opinion on the topics, and I was fresh out of the United States. I had just come back to Albania at that time. A lot of it was new to me, but the other part of me going to these shows was to make the school more recognized, and I would ask them every time that they put the name of the university under my name so that I represented the university. So it wasn't easy, but we had good results. We had better results that they had in the past. So it was a way to connect to this newer generation, and I think we did a good job at that. The other thing was that the topics, they had three major faculties at the time at the university, was the School of Law, the School of Economics, and the Social Studies School. That's changed. I noticed in the back then, going to the law school was very popular. People were looking for it, and
Mm,
even when they decided to found the school on these three bases, they had made that calculation. This is what's popular right now. We have good teachers. We had the best professors. We had people who wrote the Constitution of
mm,
Albania in the staff. So we were trying to market these people out as well, and they had tried that in the past. The problem was that the younger generation didn't know who they were, and they weren't the kind. They were older people. They were very well established academics, but the newer generation, people fresh out of high school, had no idea who these people were, so they weren't connecting as well. And the competitors were doing a better job. They had closer ties to TV stations. They were working with them for a long time, and they gave this vibe that was very fresh, very generational at the time, and they were doing better than us. They had much better numbers, so we had a lot of catching up to do. Which we did, and the school is going strong to this day. But yeah, some of the challenges were deeply connected to the image. These new students, they wanted something that felt new and fresh, and sort of easy as well. I should emphasize that
mm,
we had a reputation that you don't just get into this school and you'll very well get a diploma. We were about rigorous studies, and you had to do the work and to really get something out of it. And I was also teaching a little bit of communication. That was my major and my field of study. So besides doing the marketing and the communication for the school, I was also teaching them, and back then in Albania, and it's changed to a point, not entirely.
mm,
They wanted a diploma, and some things were happening there where you could, like the government were asking that if you had a government job, you had to have a master's degree. So a lot of people were coming there not necessarily wanting to study and learn, but just to get this degree so they could keep their job or they could get this job. And especially to the younger people, those who were studying in the bachelor level, I was telling them, and it was a very honest, advice that I gave them. This is 4 years that could change your life. And,
yeah,
looking back at my experience in the United States, it was life changing, like
yeah,
the debates I had with the teachers, and it took its time, and it happened little by little. But the person that I was after finishing and graduating was quite different. Like
mm,
my world had gotten a lot bigger. My thoughts had changed for the
mm,
better. I was doing a lot more critical thinking, and I was trying to tell them, look, guys, it's not about getting here, getting some A's, easy, and then just getting the diploma. No, you need to change your life. You need to
yeah.
open your horizons and learn. And I still get some of them. I meet them in the street, and they want to shake my hand and they say hi, and so I had a good influence on them, and
Yeah.
I'm happy for it.
Yeah, I think you hit a really good point there, and it's a point that I don't see it made a lot, that college is not necessarily about you coming in and getting a career, right? College is a place where you mature, where you're really
Yes.
trying to find out who you are, what is it that you're about, and what kind of meaning do you want to give your life as you continue, right? And that's actually very important, because you don't hear that a lot. You always kind of see, okay, well, let's be outcome focused, right? Let's tell them, you start here, you're going to get this job. You start this type of a degree, this is the kind of money that you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
Um, but one thing that I thought was important about how you approached getting a young university to be more prestigious, right? So kind of a little bit of a rebranding, right? And then using your staff as opinion leaders, right?
Yes.
Which looking back at what we do, we don't really do a lot of. It just seems like marketing is over here, faculty is over there, and they don't really interact. Now that you've transitioned into media. You work with students from a media career perspective. How do you get people really interested in what you do?
Well, that's true, and we just had a topic on the TV and radio show just a few years ago, and I mean a few days ago, and one of the guests brought out this point that they had done some polls, and a lot of young people, I don't have the numbers right now, but it was a substantial number, would go to a certain school because their friends were going to the same school, so they just wanted to keep the group together. It wasn't that they picked their own school, but I mean, Tommy went to this university, so I'm going there because we're going to stick together. And it dumbfounded me a little bit because I thought, I mean, that's a personal decision. I mean, Tommy is a good guy, no question, but you don't just follow people into the university or sometimes to the sort of degree that you're going to choose to pursue just because you want to hang with your boys and girls as well. But that was something that they do, these young people today. And I mean, they're different. They're different from the students I had back in 2008. It's been 16 years since then, and it's a new generation. Those are a different group back then, and these guys now they are digital natives, and I mean, Albania has opened up a lot just because of technology. I mean, and you get the information from everywhere, and I think that they're not sure. There's a lot of information coming from all directions, and a lot of times I see that they're unable to, it's a little bit of analysis paralysis, and they get all this information. They go like, okay, but what do I do? Because we've been talking about how you change careers at least 6 times, maybe 16 times in your working lifetime, and you retrain for this and that. And I think that's, I mean, that's true, and it's something that is happening. But at the same time, it's influenced these younger students into not knowing what to do, because they say, well, what's worth studying this field if I'm never going to work? AI is going to take that away, and AI is going to take this away. So they're unsure as to what to choose. The advice that I give them is going back to what you said just before, is that time in the university is not just about getting trained technically and becoming a good engineer or a good architect or whatever you might choose to study, but it's mainly about changing your perspectives, gaining new perspectives and interaction you have with your teachers, with your peers, people who have the same interests as you. And I tell them, do what you love, follow your passions, also your talents as well. Because there's a different thing between passion and talent, and I think that sometimes being passionate about it or about something is not enough. If you show skill, if you show talent in another field,
Yeah.
then I think that should be, you should start to grow a passion for something that you're really good at. Like my son is 13, he's still in 8th grade, and so he's got a few years because before he makes that choice. But he's playing with Minecraft, and he's building amazing buildings, and he's got a good hand in drawing as well. And he had just Sunday night, he had drawn this cathedral, the Hagia Agia, out of Istanbul, and or Constantinople before that. And the detail was amazing. And I got this architect friend in a WhatsApp group, so I sent it there like a proud dad. And he goes like, "Wow, you should really, look into this thing, because this kid shows he could be a good architect in the future." And I tell him that because he loves doing this sort of work, and it's also a dilemma for me. I mean, before he wanted to be a marine biologist, so I was looking at schools in Maine, but now it could be architecture, and so I think that pursuing a skill, something that you are good at,
Yeah.
and most likely you also love, is very important, because love alone, passion alone, I think it's not always enough. But
Yeah.
that said, the usual advice that Albanian parents give is, look at what's going to make you money.
Mm.
Go into what's going to make you rich, or not be so materialistic, but what's going to make your life comfortable. Like become a doctor, become a lawyer, become I don't know, a entrepreneur. So go to business school. And these kids might not have the slightest desire or the slightest talent in that given field. And I think that that's a no. In my personal experience, the first year I went into business management up in Massachusetts, and I did very well, George. I did excellent at school. I got all A's, but then I discovered that they had a communications department, and
Mm.
that was my calling. And I some of the credits I could take over to the new major that I chose. And some I lost. Some of that money just I lost, but it wasn't. I think I made the right choice. I've never looked
Feels
back.
worth it, right? Like when
Yeah,
you find what
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
losses. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. So yeah, they should be, I mean, they need a different approach. They need an approach of somebody who's, guiding them with love. This is not about getting them to sign for school. This is not about, telling them what's going to make you money, what's going to get you that corner office. It's about, going a little deeper, understanding who these kids are, what they really want to do, what they're really good at. That, I mean, by the time that you finish high school, some of the skills have come to the surface, some of the best skills that you have. And I think pursue that, even if it's in, I don't know, you study French literature, and a lot of eyes roll at that. But I mean, it's you could do a lot of things with a diploma. It doesn't mean that you're going to write books on the French classics necessarily. You could apply that in an advertising agency and in all over the place. But as long as you get that diploma, and I will mention here something that my boss said to me back. We worked for the Boston Globe, part of the New York Times company, and my boss David said one day we had this excellent girl who came to work with us. She had studied biology, and we were a marketing company there. We were doing marketing for the Boston Globe. We had nothing to do with biology and cells and these things. And what he said to me was, he said, it's not about what the diploma is about, what the degree is about. What you show me with a diploma, and I don't even need to look at it, you show me that you started something and you pursued it to the end, that you
Mm.
took something on and you were able to get through it. And that tells me
Mm.
that you are a reliable person, that you're going to be somebody that I can hire and will come to work every day. And that's all I need. Every company has its way of doing things. You don't, your university degree doesn't necessarily tell you what your tasks are in your daily job, and those are about to change every day as well. But if you prepare yourself, you train. It's like a training for when you get out there and go into the workplace, because you've done the work. It's work in a way to be a student.
Yeah, there's an interesting statistic that just kind of blows everybody's mind away, that only about less than 50% of students actually graduate in 4 years from college.
I
Uh,
didn't. It took me
yeah,
about five
yeah.
and a
So,
half.
and actually, I think about 65% of them, graduate after 6 years, right? So what that kind of tells you is, what they have in mind is not that they're going to pay tuition for a year, they're going to pay tuition for 6 years, right? Or if not tuition, at least housing,
Yeah,
right?
higher costs. Yeah.
Years, right? And the other thing that's really interesting, because from what you were telling me, on kind of teaching this kids to follow their passion. When you're in admissions, when you're in marketing, you have several stakeholders, right? So the student is just one of them, but the parent is also the one who pays the bills, right? So you have to convince them that it's okay to let your kid follow their passion, that
That's the hard part, right?
right? Like having them become a lawyer is not necessarily, you might feel like they're going to make money, but what's their quality of life going to be like if
Yeah.
they're passionate about it? As an international student, what was that process like for you? Kind of getting in there and adjusting to a different system of education, right? Coming from Albania, having finished your school in Albania, and then starting here.
It was easy breezy, to be honest with you. I mean,
Okay.
well, there was some. Well, I will explain. It wasn't as easy breezy as I make it sound. At first, I had, the thing was that I had never been a university student before. I was a high school student before that, and in a different continent as well. So when I first got there, I just went to the admissions office. I was living locally, so it wasn't like an international process at that point.
Yeah.
But the
Wow.
thing that I didn't know, as I explained, I didn't know that they had a communications department. And a lot of things felt different, and they used a lot of acronyms for things that I
Mm,
wouldn't understand. I had no idea what these things meant, and
mm,
they spoke of financial aid, and I had no idea what financial aid meant. That you could get some help from the state and this and that. So first, I had to find my way into it. So it took me about a year, so to speak, just to I mean, I went
yeah,
in,
yeah,
I
yeah.
got admitted, I started to go into classes. I was doing good. I was working the whole time that I've been through school. I was working. That's why it took me longer than 4 years to do that. But it was strange that I could choose my subjects, like and I could say, well, for the spring I'll take this and that and this, because in Albania there was, and it still is, very rigid. You don't pick your subjects. The subjects are set in the curricula, and that's what you get. You go through them, and so the thing that it was amazingly uh, comfortable, and saying, well, I got these two hard subjects, so I'm gonna make it easy and take understanding movies for the other part, because understand, everybody loves movies, and that falsely think that that's an easy class. It's not,
Mm,
but it was comfortable that you could fit. And with my working schedule as well, I would take classes on a Saturday morning, and all my other classes were at night. So that took a lot of adjusting. And then once I was in for about a year and a half or so. So my second year, when I had switched to communications as a major, then I started to get a feel. Then the map became a little clearer. And that's the library building. That's the parking lot. That's the new science and technology building. So you have to walk from here to there. I didn't live on campus. I had my own apartment. So yeah, it takes a little, because it's a huge system. It's been going on for a long time, and they have their lingo and they have their ways. And a lot of times people in the admission offices assume that exactly what they're talking about. And I'm not the only one that didn't
no.
know exactly what they were talking about. So a little more explanation, a little bit easier to understand, giving them some options, asking them back as to if they understand that they have
Oh,
this, or they could also do that. Like I didn't know what pass or fail meant. Like you take a class
just,
and it's not,
yeah,
yeah, you don't get a grade for it. We don't have that in Albania.
right.
And I never applied that to any of my classes. But when I fully understood how that was, I was like, well, okay, I could have used that one, like on one of my harder classes I wasn't very good
Yeah,
at, or that them. So all this, but that was too late. Maybe I
yeah,
had already
yeah, yeah,
done that grade. So yeah,
yeah.
it takes some. It's a lot. It's a lot of information coming. And if you are an international student, you're probably there without your family.
Right.
If you call your mom and dad in another country, they probably don't know exactly what answers to give you. They're
Mhm.
expecting you to know more than them. So for international students, especially, I think that communicating in an easy to understand way is very important, and asking them if they really get it. And because a lot of times, you were too embarrassed to say that,
Yeah.
well, I don't understand how that works exactly. So yeah, that they need some help with that.
Yeah, it makes me think of kind of being back in on the admission side, because from our perspective, when we look at the students that we interact with, the statistic that you always have in your head is that before they actually started talking to you, right, before they became a lead, not even a student, but before they started sending an email like, hey, I want some more information, they've had 1,000 touch points, right, with education, with higher education. So to us, we kind of feel like, okay, well, if you've interacted 1,000 times with higher education in the US, whether it's a article you read or you talk to another university, then you must be well versed in all of these things. But I agree with you that your story is not unique to you. Now that you bring it up, it makes me think, every single international student, shakes their head and says yes, yes, yes when they're talking to you. And then they take another year of just trying to adjust to what a pass fail is.
Yeah.
That's very, very interesting. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk about something unique that you are doing as a thought leader, specifically for these young Gen Z, men and women. They're now in their late teens, early 20s. They're trying to figure out who they are, why they're here, and what does that mean for the next 60, 70 years of their life, right? What got you start this mentorship?
Hmm. Well, to be honest with you, it started when I got into philosophy a little late myself, the Stoics and some other philosophers as well. So it was like, how come I read a lot of books? I've been through school, and I did all of that homework and essays, and I had never read about Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus and all these guys from the ancient world. I mean, maybe they should teach some of that in college as well. So
Mm,
first was an interaction within myself. I found that these old lessons, this old philosophy could be life improving. I'm not going to say life changing. It could be as well, but at least life improving, self improving. So first, I saw that they had an impact on me, myself, and helped me deal with problems in the daily life. Deal with things that upset you and maybe make you angry, or situations and people that you have to interact with every day. So it got me to a quieter place and a better place,
mm,
mentally and also physically. So then I
mm,
wanted to share this, and I've done some mentorships, even in the field of technology and TV and radio. What I noticed first was that at the University of Tirana School of Journalism, they have some good labs, and now they put them to use. But a few years back, these guys, they were finishing journalism school, and they'd never been inside a studio. So they didn't know how to record voiceover, or they didn't know how to shoot, like a stand-up for a news piece. So what I did is I opened up the studio where I worked back then, and I started a free course. We were
mm.
getting some help. We were getting you know, uh, some
Like
money
funding
basically
or
to
yeah.
do this, and we're basically paying the radio and my
Yep.
trainers as well. I took some trainers that were from the field. They were all working journalists, and they were all working cameramen and TV directors. So I took them on, and we formed a team, and we said it's unfair to these guys when they go knocking at a TV station to start work there, that they are intimidated by the studio. They've never used the equipment. They've never done anything practical, but it's all theory. It's all like you do this like that, but it's all they have a blackboard and they have notes, and that's it. So I said we have to break that. And the idea came, there's this school out in Connecticut, the Connecticut Schools of Broadcasting, where they are sort of like a vocational school. You go there to
Mm,
learn the trade of working in radio, working in television, and you learn by doing. And so I said, okay, we're going to give them a chance to come here for 4 months. They don't pay anything, and they learn by doing. So they start on the first day, and we sit them down, and one does the cameraman, and one does the anchorman, and one does something else, the audio. So they learn, and then when they go to the TV station, when they go to apply for a job or a radio somewhere, they at least the myth has been taken down, so they're not as afraid. They're not
right.
like
Right.
deer in headlights sort of situation. And we had great results with that. So that got me in touch with working with this younger generation. I was meeting with them like 3 times a week, basically
Mm,
for those 3 or 4 months, and I did that for maybe 3 years. So a lot of them now are people who work in the media. I'm very proud to say it's not my doing. They had a passion for it, but the good ones, the ones, because on the first day you'd get like 40 of them, and then by the last day it would be like 16 who went through the course. So you're giving something free. Sometimes
mm,
people don't, they fail to realize that it's worth it because you don't pay
yep.
for it. So, but those 16 who'd finish, then they got jobs, and then some of them are really good. I watch them now on television where they run
Mm,
shows, or they are very good reporters. And I knew back then it wasn't because I worked with
yeah.
them; it was because they had
Yeah.
that fire inside.
Right.
That's
Right.
why they came to every meeting that we had, and they took those trainings. Um, so yeah, and now I realize that they need mentorship.
Yeah.
and the feedback that I got back from them is that they need somebody that or many buddies that don't just talk to them. And I'm not going to say this in a bad way, but they were afraid of professors. There's this aura in Albania is still there, where the professor is, semi god, and they need to be quiet and they need to listen. And the interaction, some of them are really excellent and they encourage the interaction, but a lot of them don't. So like,
Yeah.
I tell you what to do, take the notes down and come for the exam, and you don't talk to me in the hallway. They needed that, friendship,
Mm.
so to speak. So once I got into philosophy and I started to share these things in social media, I noticed that the feedback was huge. And
Mm.
to be honest with you, George, I still don't have a precise, I don't have any idea. Some people write me, you have no idea how influential you are and how important your work is to us. So because I don't know. They're like, I got thousands of followers now,
Right.
and they live all over the place, and there's no
Right.
way for me to know what impact I've had in each and every one of them's lives. But I know it's good work to share.
Yeah.
This feels good to
Yeah.
help people, and it's yeah.
But what do you think is missing?
Mm. Well, it's yeah, that's hard to tell, as you mentioned already. What's missing is, I think, growing up in the '90s. I miss the '90s immensely, to be honest with you. The way we hung out together a lot, and the way that we used to always find a way to meet. Even back home in
Yeah.
Albania, before I went to the United States, we had this group of guys and girls, and we always hung out together. And we had this spot near the boulevard there, and we knew. We had no phones, back then. We had no cell phones whatsoever, no smartphones, of course. But we knew that, after 6 p.m. every afternoon, somebody or many other groups would be there. And we always met. We always saw each other without having a need to set an appointment or call. And we spent a lot of time with each other. And I think that quality time, even, shooting the breeze, so to speak,
Yeah.
not having an agenda, it was good to be near each other. So we were always there, and then we'd go and go to the beach for days sometimes. And we had this we'd take this tents that we bought from some army guys, and they would fit 12 in one of them, and it was Spartan conditions, but we had this
Mm.
freedom. Whereas now it's all like luxury hotels over there, and it's
Mm.
all different vibe totally. But we had each other, and I think that this generation, being on social media a lot and being influenced by it immensely, being alone in their rooms for a long
Mm.
time, I think that also makes them more insecure. I mean, social media. I know that the jury is still out on this, but I think it's obvious. If you compare, Mark Twain says that comparison is the killer of happiness. So if you compare yourself to others, always flashing their best on social media, always putting out there, and some, the
Yeah.
there's a little bit of imposters out there where they
Yeah.
they they go to places just to take a picture and then get back out, but they,
Right.
for all intents and purposes, they were staying at that luxury hotel, or they were by the pool and this and that. It makes them feel, inadequate in a
Yeah.
way, like they're not worth it, or they don't have as much as the others. So I think out of that need or that emptiness that grows, that feeling of not being all they could probably be. And then we have
Mm.
also this thing with TikTok, where we have a lot of stupid people, to honestly, who flash their jewels, and a lot of times
Right.
they're people who are in a bad way, and they're doing bad things, but they flash this luxury cars and
Lifestyle.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, this lifestyle, and
Yeah.
they're looking home and they're saying, well, that's what I need to be, that's what I need to do. How do I do that? And there's only way to do that, and it probably most times ends up in jail. So
Mm.
so they're under this pressure, and I see it where they buy these fake brand names, and they're all like written all over with these brand names.
Balenciaga.
Obviously, yeah, well, yeah, and the balance is just one of them, but all of these, and that they bought that for $10, and the need that they have to wear that, to belong with this group
Mm.
of flashy people, which is all conspicuous consumption anyway.
Yeah.
So I take a stand against that. I say, well, your value is not in the clothes that you wear, and they agree. Like Seneca says, you don't buy a coat because it's like, now it's socially unacceptable to wear the same coat for 2 years in a row you have to change it, not because it's worn out, but because it's out of style. So a lot of this, advertising influences people into doing things that they don't necessarily need to do, spend their money in a way that they don't necessarily need to spend. And that bothers me, because we become victims of the advertisement industry and what needs they produce for us, which are not necessarily what we actually need. And I think that young people, when affronted with this, they say, okay, there's another way. And of course, a lot of them will say like, this is all BS, and I will do whatever I can to wear those rich man's clothes. But a lot of them will say, okay, maybe reading my books and finding happiness within myself is an actual way of becoming happy.
Bringing that back to education, every year there's a decline by 4% in terms of number of high school students that move on to college. But over a period of 5, 6, 7 years, 4% becomes a lot, right?
Yeah.
So, and I feel like, so I'm right where you are in terms of this problem that this new generation has, which is a crisis of meaning, right? Like, if you can't find meaning in yourself, in who you are, then how would you be able to commit to 4 to 6 years of education, to commit to $25,000-$30,000 spent every year, with that idea that at the end of this there's going to be this amazing light and you're going to be a different person and a changed person. Because if you don't know where you are now, what makes you think you're going to know, that you're going to kind of be at this utopian place, right? Like six months from now. But I agree with you. I feel like part of what needs to be taught in schools is resilience, right?
Mm-hmm.
From a at a personality level, because I feel like this is what they teach, right? Like the Stoics or some of these philosophers. What do you think is going to be now with AI and technology change? And I see you at work as well, and because we're coming close to the end of this. What do you think is going to be, where do you see this new generation evolve?
I know, right? Well, anybody who says that they know, they're lying,
Oh,
because
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, we don't actually know. We could guess. We could take informed guesses. I mean, I think that it's muddied it up a little bit. It's made it a little bit, a bit harder to really understand, because some of the professions that were really looked after and also searched after, and people were going for programmer, coder, and all of these things. These things seem to have been taken a hit because AI could do that. So
Yeah,
programming doesn't seem as important as it did maybe 2 or 3 years ago at
that's
this
right.
point. So I think that emphasizes, in a way, there's an opportunity to stress out how important it is to go to the university, not for the purpose of becoming a programmer. You don't need to go to the university to become a good programmer. You just sit in your room and you apply yourself, and you probably will become a good hacker, let's say a white hat hacker. But I think it emphasizes the need of going through this period of life. I mean, college, I think it's a great invention, and it's a period of life where you train yourself to how you think and how you apply yourself and how you respect your schedules and your timelines, and then you get there on time, and then you turn in your essays on time. I think that's discipline, and discipline is a form of self-love. Like, you go to the gym every day because you love a better version of you than sitting at home and watching Netflix and eating chips. That doesn't take a lot of discipline. That's easy to do, but you'll become a couch potato if you do that. So a form of loving yourself, a form of taking care of yourself, is doing, making those hard choices, getting up every day, signing up for school and going through this process. That it's not just about making you a good, one thing. It's about making you a more well-rounded person. And we even stress that at Marin Barleti in the beginning. This is not about becoming a good lawyer or a good economist or a good businessman. This is about becoming a better citizen, of
Mm,
understanding where you live, and everything is connected. And we have a role in society. It's not just our profession, but it's also who we are as people. And I think that college can play a huge role in that. On the other hand, I just want to stress something. This is especially true for the United States. People for a long time looked down on people who did not have a college degree. So it was sort of a status. You have a college degree, or either you have it or you don't. And if you don't, I mean, what are you gonna put on that application? You never went to college, and there was I think there was a little bit of
a
resentment
stigma.
being
Yeah.
built on people who, and I've heard stories of people who tell them, come work with me and I will teach you and I will help you, live a comfortable life as a roofer, as a plumber. Somebody said plumbers rule the world, you
Yeah.
know. So and some of them are kind of like taking an action back and maybe, well, I'm not going to go to college, and this gig economy now, and even the landscape is going to change. I believe, Jerzy. Like right now in Albania, and this is certainly true for the United States, companies are not necessarily hiring people to have them there full time. They're hiring them for certain projects. They finish this project in 1 month and they pay them for that. And then when they need them not next year, they call them again. And these
Mm,
people are also getting comfortable with not having a 9 to 5, but
right.
they say, well, I'm a good photographer. So every time that they're going to do the staff photos, I'm going to be there. They're my client now, but I have a lot of clients. I have
Right.
more than this. So it's going to change that. A lot of places that are now fixed, I mean, places of work or jobs are going to be shifting, and companies have an interest in that, not having him there and
Eight
paying all
hours.
the
Yeah.
benefits. But on the other hand, it gives you a sense of freedom that you could do your work more remotely and not have those set schedules. You work out a contract, you do the job, and then you move on to the next job. And I think that's sort of the future. And I don't think AI is going to replace it. It will replace some jobs and make them disappear. But I think more than that, AI is going to change the way we work. We're still going to need people to work, especially those who are creative. So,
Mm,
like and I think that creativity, it grows in college. It makes you think more. And if you are original, if you are creative, then you don't need to be afraid that AI is going to wipe you away. I hear a lot of podcasts, for example, that sound like one another, or people who are on social media who repeat the same themes. Like I hear it from you, then I make a different version of the same thing. There's no need for that. That's going to be wiped out by AI. AI could do podcasts, but if you have real content and that comes from within, that's human, creativity, then I don't think you need to worry. You could, take your work to another level with AI being by your side.
yeah. 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 I agree with that. I agree with that because at the end of the day, well, now AI has started to create, but I think you can't outdo human ingenuity. So, all right. Well, thank you, Blendi. Where can people find you?
Well, they can find me on Instagram, Blendi Salaj. They just look for that. It's spelled BLENDI SALAJ. So yeah, if they find me on Instagram, then they can go from there.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here.
It's a real
Awesome.
pleasure anytime.